Welcome to PandaAudioBooks, the perfect place for a huge collection of fantasy novels. If you enjoy my content and want to support my work, a small contribution via PayPal is greatly appreciated. And don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and hit the notifications bell to stay updated with our latest audiobook chapters. Chapter 301. Immortal shows the way. Meng Hao quickly decided to change the topic. Senior, sir, I'm sure you didn't just call me here to eat some white dragon. The way the man had looked at him just now made him feel like food, and had caused his scalp to go numb. Only at this point did the man reluctantly look back up. From the look of it, it took quite a bit of willpower to do so. He tilted his head back to look up at the stars. These stars come from my memories of ancient times, said the man softly, sounding a bit melancholy. Unfortunately, I've been asleep for far too long. When I woke up, I was here, in this land. I couldn't tell if the starry sky was the same or not, or whether there were more stars or fewer. Listen up, kid. My surname is Chomen. I was born outside the 7th mountain, on planet Tiger Cage. My full name is Chomen Tai. 1. Chomen Tai's name in Chinese is Chomen Tai Chumen Tai. This is a bit of a strange name. Chomen is a made-up surname. As for the meaning of this name, each of these characters has multiple definitions. Instead of listing them here, I will just put links so that you can research it yourself if you wish. Chomen Tai. The man looked back down from the stars and stared at Meng Hao with a solemn expression. Because I was on good terms with an old friend from the 8th mountain, I took part in the Dao War between the 8th and 9th mountains. During the course of the war, I was seriously injured. I should have perished, but I had one breath left that has kept me going until now. I may die, but I will not allow my legacy to end with me. As for you, the moment you saw me way back then, I acquired the coordinates to this planet, allowing me to fall here, too. This happened back in Chapter 59. You have a special bloodline. If you're lucky, you should be able to leave this tiny planet South Heaven, travel to my home and return the legacy. That is my hope. If you're able to do it, well and good. If not, I still won't have any regrets. He studied Meng Hao for a moment. I have 3 boons to bestow upon you, as way of repayment. The first boon is a mark that I created after I achieved enlightenment and gained immortality. Its name is Immortal Shows the Way. Only someone who has ascended to immortality in the 9 mountains and seas, and who is willing to sacrifice some cultivation base, can create something like this. It was supposed to be given to my descendants as a treasure. When you are of the great circle of Tao seeking, you can use it to step from that peak toward immortal ascension. Someone will show you the way, and your chances of succeeding in immortal ascension will increase by 30%. Furthermore, you won't be using some local power. Immortal Shows the Way can cause a starry sky to descend. He lifted his hand up and pressed down on his forehead. A resplendent ball of light immediately appeared. The glowing ball of light emanated an aura which did not belong to this world. As soon as Meng Hao sensed it, his mind began buzzing. He had the powerful feeling that this light contained a fearsome power. Were it to detonate, it could turn the entire southern domain into ash. Meng Hao began to pant as he stared at the glowing ball of light in the man's hand. Meng Hao could also sense that when the aura emerged, the man instantly grew weaker by almost half. The stars and the land around them seemed to grow more unstable, even blurry. Immortal ascension is difficult, but with this Immortal Shows the Way, that difficulty will be reduced by quite a lot. All you have to do is continue to grow until you reach that point. When that time comes, you will most likely be able to make the final step. This item is the first boon I shall bestow upon you. The man's face was pale and his body was becoming less distinct. However, he gave a hearty laugh and, without hesitation, pressed the glowing Immortal Shows the Way into Meng Hao's forehead. Such an object could cause countless experts among the stars to engage in ruthless struggle, but the man handed it directly over. The glow of it fused into Meng Hao's body. Meng Hao trembled and closed his eyes for a while. When he opened them, he felt completely different than before. However, He couldn't quite tell what was different. The only thing he was sure of was that his head felt much clearer. The second boon I will bestow upon you is something you've likely heard of before, one of the 3 classic scriptures, the Tao Divinity Scripture. Sublime Spirit, Tao Divinity, Heaven Severing. These 3 scriptures aren't just passed down on this planet where you reside. These 3 classic scriptures are handed down throughout all the 9 mountains and seas. Unfortunately, what most people possess are mere fragments of the full scriptures. Up till now, only 2 people have ever been able to collect the full text of any one of them, and been able to acquire the Tao Realm title. One of those was the Tao Divinity of the first mountain. The other was Sublime Spirit from your 9th mountain. Only these 2 powerful experts were able to collect the complete Sublime Spirit Scripture and Tao Divinity Scripture respectively. Everyone else only possesses fragments. As for the most mysterious of all, the Heaven Severing Scripture, for countless ages no one has ever been able to collect it in its entirety, nor cultivated the great circle of that realm to acquire the designation Heaven Severing. As for my Tao Divinity Scripture, I only have one manual, which is actually far more valuable than the rest. Mine is the Divine Sense Manual. One of the main reasons why I didn't die in the Tao War was because of this manual. My divine sense is about 3 times more powerful than anyone in the same stage as me. This is the superiority which comes from cultivating this manual of the Tao Divinity Scripture. Triple is the limit. However, if you acquire other Tao Divinity fragments, then you can increase that number. This art, I pass to you. The man raised his right hand and pushed down onto Meng Hao's forehead. Immediately, a scriptural text began to float in Meng Hao's mind. Each magical symbol radiated a black glow as it branded itself onto Meng Hao's mind. Immediately, his body trembled as his spiritual sense experienced frenzied growth. After the space of a few breaths passed, he found that his spiritual sense had increased by about double. As of this moment, he could easily send it out to cover everything around. The stronger one's spiritual sense is, the stronger the core chi will be. With core chi powering magical techniques, the result will be even more shocking. Similarly, Meng Hao's ability to deduce the ultimate form of his techniques far surpassed others. At the moment, it was only a simple branding, and Meng Hao had only received a doubling of spiritual sense. Through continued cultivation, that increase would be even greater. Even this seemed like a huge stroke of good fortune to Meng Hao, though, and left him breathing heavily. "What do you think?" laughed the man. "Just having it branded to you increased your spiritual sense by double. That's because of the half-dragon you ate. The power of white dragons stems from divine sense. Your cultivation base isn't capable of completely assimilating it, though. That will take some time. When that happens, your divine sense will become vastly more stable." "White dragon," said Meng Hao without thinking. "You mean that wasn't an illusion?" Feeling the increase in his spiritual sense caused him to be vastly more confident in being able to reach core formation. "Who said it was an illusion?" said the man as he glared, reached up and smacked Meng Hao's head. "You gluttonous little punk. That was the last dried white dragon that I had saved up. Its efficacy was rather low, but I still had planned to save it for my last meal before I died. Unfortunately, I gave you an entire half. Oh well, it doesn't matter." The man seemed to be a bit jealous at the level of Meng Hao's good fortune. He sighed and then reached into his robe. "All right, I didn't finish what I was saying. You have the first and second boons. Now, I'll give the last boon. Kid, I want you to remember something. If you aren't able to deliver my legacy back to Planet Tiger Cage, then even if I'm dead I will definitely curse you." From within his body, he dragged out a glowing white globule. The glow carried with it a faint, delicate fragrance. Meng Hao gaped when he saw it. The glow contained a diamond-shaped object. This is my legacy," he said with a whisper, "contained in a breath of my immortal chi. This is what you must take to Planet Tiger Cage. Dissolve the immortal chi, and you will be able to see the legacy. Only you. If you wish to study it, you may. Just get it to Planet Tiger Cage. To be honest, though, according to my calculations, it would be difficult for you to fully assimilate it within several hundred years." Looking pained, he took the white diamond and pushed it into Meng Hao's chest. Meng Hao's body spasmed. The white diamond suddenly appeared amidst his 10 Tao pillars. The white glow emanated out, connecting with his Tao pillars. At the same time, a boundless roar filled his cultivation base, exploding outward throughout his body. His 10 Tao pillars shook and radiated massive amounts of violet qi, which then interlocked over the white diamond. Meng Hao's mind spun. He suddenly sensed a feeling that was similar to when he had consumed the 3 mortalities pill in his attempt to reach core formation. I'm approaching core formation, Meng Hao said, panting. The man's body began to fade, causing him to speak in a rush. You've reached the critical point leading to core formation. Dissipate some of my immortal qi, and it will help you to form your core. Look out for yourself. I'm placing all of my hope in you. Be careful of the Black Sieve sect. Be careful of the ancient power which comes from the east in this planet. The Lord who controls that power has already reached the pinnacle of this planet. The uniqueness of your bloodline and my speculations regarding your past are contained in that breath of immortal qi. Some years from now, after you completely dissolve my immortal qi, you will be able to see. However, I can't guarantee that all of it will be true. The world around them began to crack and break. I'm gonna make one last bet by entering your planet's rebirth cave. According to my analysis, the mysteries within have something to do with the Tao Sea beneath the 9th mountain. Look out. Yourself. Mental realm is collapsing. When everyone inside will be teleported out. The voice came and went in spurts, and then finally disappeared. An intense rumbling filled the area around Meng Hao, and then everything collapsed. He was once again surrounded by walls. However, this time, the walls were filled with fissures. Cracking sounds filled the air. Meng Hao looked around and took a deep breath. Everything had happened too quickly just now. As he thought back to it, it seemed like a dream. And yet, the Tao divinity scripture was there in his mind, and within his body was the immortal qi in the shape of a diamond. It was all real. Furthermore, his 10 Tao pillars were rapidly beginning to melt, releasing an unprecedentedly dense violet qi. The qi wrapped around the diamond, and was slowly beginning to take the shape of a core. Meng Hao knew that he was now entering core formation. The process would normally take a very long time. However, because of the assistance of the immortal qi, the process would be sped up. Right now, he had reached a critical juncture. It was at this exact moment that a boom filled the air. The sound came from a nearby wall, which suddenly exploded. A potent aura suddenly poured through. Finally found it, said a voice. This is the place the patriarch spoke of. That person's immortal will is slumbering in this, The young man surnamed Ji suddenly appeared, a look of surprise on his face. He wore a long, azure robe. His eyes flickered as they fell upon Meng Hao. A mysterious light glowed therein. His expression suddenly turned grim. Did you steal it? He asked. This chapter was sponsored by LOC Fam and Gary. Chapter 302, Crisis. The Ji youth's expression was one of unyielding pride, his words aloof and remote. He didn't seem to think Meng Hao was even worth looking at, and spoke to him as he might a servant. Meng Hao frowned. However, he thought of the fissomeness of the clan, as well as the fear and Zai Hai had shown. He thought about everything he had experienced, and all the stories regarding Ji. Then, he immediately suppressed any feelings of displeasure he felt. Now was not the appropriate time to attack. His cultivation base had reached a critical juncture, the time when the important transformation would occur. Meng Hao knew that to attack now would affect the growth of his cultivation base. Furthermore, the Ji youth's cultivation base was at the peak of the early core formation stage, even higher than the Azure Masked cultivator from the Black Lands he had fought. Your Excellency, I'm not quite sure what you mean, said Meng Hao, looking surprised. I just arrived here myself, and haven't been able to find anything. Don't tell me there's some sort of treasure here. The glow of greed shone in his eyes as he spoke. The Ji youth's eyes glittered as he glanced at Meng Hao, and an expression of utter disdain covering his face. He looked around, heart still filled with suspicion. This guy's cultivation base is at the Foundation establishment level, he thought. No matter how weak the immortal is, there's no way this guy could penetrate his immortal sense. Plus, his slumbering. Even I couldn't forcibly break into the immortal sense, not even with the device given to me by the Patriarch. So, could it have been taken earlier by someone else? Within the Ji-youth's mind appeared the image of the girl surnamed Fang. He glanced over at Meng Hao. Did you encounter anyone on your way here? Whatever it is you saw, tell me immediately, he demanded. If you leave out anything, I will wipe you and your sect and clan. He made no attempt to cover over his disdain and superciliousness. Meng Hao hesitated, then lowered his voice. Someone else? Yes, I did see someone, actually, wearing a green robe. I couldn't really see clearly which fellow Daoist it was. This place. Before he could finish, the Ji-youth seemed to have made his mind up. He flicked his sleeve impatiently. Screw off, he said. Meng Hao's eyes flickered with an imperceptible coldness. However, a cowardly look appeared on his face, and he immediately backed up, then turned to leave. It was at this exact moment that suddenly, the wall next to him exploded outward, and a person in green emerged. Along with this person came an incredibly potent aura, which immediately enveloped the entire area. Not only did it contain power, but also feeling of extreme conceit. As the aura roiled out, the figure emerged slowly, a young woman. This was none other than the girl surnamed Fang, who was also from the Eastern lands. As soon as she appeared, her eyes fell onto the Ji-youth. Meng Hao was standing right next to her, but she completely ignored him. The arrogance which emanated from her was virtually palpable. Ji Hongdong, give the immortal scripture to me, said the young woman coolly. She was beautiful, and emanated icy arrogance. 1. When he saw the girl appear, Meng Hao's heart began to thump, and he backed up a few paces. Before he could get very far, the Ji-youth's eyes narrowed. Fang Yu, it turns out you took the immortal scripture, and still. He only finished half of his thought when his heart suddenly trembled. He abruptly looked at Meng Hao, and as he did, he blinked his right eye 7 times in rapid succession. Suddenly, 2 pupils could be seen within his eye. They seemed to possess some power of psychic sight. As he looked at Meng Hao, he immediately was able to see the white diamond in Meng Hao's dantian. 2. Fang Yu's name in Chinese is Fang Yu Fa with macronym Yu. Fang is a family name. Yu means beauty or jade. In addition to the diamond, there was a blurriness. Even the diamond by itself was enough to cause killing intent to spring out from the Ji-youth's eyes. However, just as soon as it appeared, it then vanished. The speed with which all of this happened was such that if you blinked, you wouldn't be able to pick up even the slightest clue that something was happening. Preposterous, said the Ji-youth with a cold laugh. Ignoring Meng Hao, he immediately shot toward Fang Yu. As he neared, he waved his right hand, causing a field of stars to appear behind him. Fang Yu gave a cold snort and also advanced. She lifted her hand, forming a fist and punching out into the air. A huge boom resonated out in all directions. Meng Hao immediately tumbled backward, then picked a random direction and sped off. His face was grim. He could see that Ji Hongdong had seen through him. He didn't point it out and immediately pursue Meng Hao because of the Fang girl. Instead of saying something, he planned to come after Meng Hao later, alone. The walls continued to fill with cracks, although Meng wasn't sure how long it would take until they completely crumbled. He slapped his bag of holding to retrieve the good luck charm. He pressed down on it, after which a frustrated look appeared on his face. For the first time ever, the good luck charm was powerless to teleport him away. I can't place all of my hope on the collapse of this place, thought Meng Hao. He knew full well that before the place fell to pieces, he had somewhat of a chance to flee. However, once the collapse was complete, if Ji Hongdong came after him, he would be in a very bad position. Ji Hongdong's status, his place in the fearsome Ji clan, made it such that if he were killed, it would be equivalent to deliberately invoking monolithic disaster. Meng Hao wasn't sure if the Violet Fate sect would even be able to fight back. The 2 powers weren't even on the same level. His face grim, Meng Hao continued on for a bit less time than it takes half an incense stick to burn. Finally, he gritted his teeth and stopped, sitting down cross-legged on the ground. Ignoring the crumbling of the walls around him, he began to meditate, rotating his cultivation base and pushing as fast as possible toward core formation. Regardless of anything, I will only be able to seize the initiative after I reach core formation. A bright glow appeared in his eyes. This was a moment of crisis, leaving him little time to think things through. He closed his eyes and spit out a mouthful of mist, which immediately crackled with lightning as it surrounded him. At the same time, a halo the color of blood emerged from Meng Hao, and a blood clone materialized and began to guard over him. Meng Hao's 10 Dao pillars emitted a roaring sound that only he could hear. Massive amounts of violet qi poured forth, causing the Dao pillars to begin to melt and then merge together. After the Dao pillars fully melted, he would be able to form his core. Thanks to the immortal qi, this process would happen much more quickly. Once Meng Hao reached core formation, he would set the record as the fastest person to do so since ancient times. Time passed by. Meng Hao wasn't sure when Ji Hongdong would come for him. However, it would happen quickly, he was sure of that. Ji Hongdong had picked up on the clues. Once he shook off the young Fang woman, he would be coming for Meng Hao. Must go faster, thought Meng Hao, circulating all the power within his cultivation base. Suddenly, a shocking roar filled his mind. His 10th Dao pillar was now melting. As the Dao pillar melted, vast quantities of violet qi poured out, wrapping around and around the collection of violet mist which already existed around the immortal qi. The globule of violet mist rotated rapidly, emitting countless strands of violet qi throughout Meng Hao's body. A brutally powerful aura appeared within Meng Hao. His physical body grew more powerful, his spiritual sense expanded, and most obviously, the blood clone and the blood death world he was within slowly began to grow stronger. As the true self grew stronger, so did they. Meng Hao wasn't satisfied, though. The speed was too slow. Veins bulged on his face as he pushed everything into rotating his cultivation base. Amidst the roaring, his 9th Dao pillar began to melt. More violet qi poured out. The violet mist globule rotated even more rapidly. It was now showing signs of condensing into a core. Next, his 8th Dao pillar, then his 7th. They melted one after another, filling him with rumbling booms. Boundless spiritual energy exploded out, causing the violet mist to roil at even greater speed. It sucked in violet qi. As of this moment, Meng Hao's body was emitting a bright violet glow. The globule of violet mist spun at high speed. All signs pointed to it forming into a violet core at any moment. Seeing this, Meng Hao quickly consumed a large amount of 3 mortalities pills. It still wasn't enough. Meng Hao could clearly sense that he was immeasurably close to core formation. Even faster, thought Meng Hao with an inward growl. A thunderous noise could be heard as his 6th Dao pillar, 5th Dao pillar and 4th Dao pill all melted. It was at this time that off in the distance, Meng Hao could hear a loud noise. Someone was using a magical technique. It's not Ji Hongdong, thought Meng Hao. He was focused on rotating his Dao pillars, but he had long since sent his spiritual sense out into the area. He immediately caught sight of a figure making its way toward him at high speed. Meng Hao sighed inwardly and opened his eyes. Off in the distance was Li Daoyi, wearing a thoughtful smile. Catching sight of Meng Hao, he gave a slight smile and said, "I was wondering who it was that fellow Daoist wanted me to pursue and delay. So, it turns out it's Grandmaster Fang Mu." He slowly approached. As he neared, he suddenly stopped and gaped at Meng Hao. "Core formation aura? You picked this moment to form your core?" He laughed, his expression filled with a sneer. "You really live up to your reputation, Grandmaster Fang Mu," he said. "Very audacious. However, you took something that belongs to fellow Daoist Ji. That's a no-no. The mere sight of you fills me with the desire to kill. Make a move against me and you'll cause a war between the Li clan and the Violet Fate sect," said Meng Hao coolly, his expression the same as ever. He was in a race against time. His cultivation base was rotating rapidly, causing his remaining 3 Dao pillars to begin to melt away. "I would of course never attack you," said Li Daoyi with a hypocritical smile. "I'll just block your way. Make sure you stay behind and don't leave. Your life does not belong to me, but rather, fellow Daoist Ji. The clan patriarchs will be more than happy to allow something like this to happen." He lifted his hand, extending it toward Meng Hao's forehead. Meng Hao sighed. It seemed he would not be able to make his breakthrough at the moment. Killing intent glittered in his eyes, and he was just about to make a move, when suddenly, his face flickered. At the same time, Li Daoyi's face also changed. He spun, and then dodged to the side. Just as he did, a clear, melodious snort rang out, filling the air. A band of white light flashed through the spot where Li Daoyi had just stood, then shot after him. Next, a prismatic beam shot toward them, coming to a stop next to Meng Hao. There, wearing a white robe, facial expression icy cold, was Xu Qing. She glared at Li Daoyi. "Make your breakthrough," she said calmly to Meng Hao. "I'll take care of him." Her voice was cold, but as her words made their way into Meng Hao's heart, they transformed into gentle warmth. Ji Hongdong's name in Chinese is Ji Hongdong Ji Hongdong Ji. Ji is a family name. Hong means great and also goose. Dong means East. Fang Yu's name in Chinese is Feng Yurefe with Macron Ji Yu. Fang is a family name. Yu means beauty or jade. Chapter 303, The Bloodline of the Ji Clan Xu Qing. Li Daoyi's eyes glowed brightly. He was not unfamiliar with Xu Qing. Back in the western region of the southern domain, he had fought against her. During that fight, he had suffered a great defeat. Later, he was able to make a breakthrough and enter the core formation stage, but the loss that day had been extremely irritating. Seeing Xu Qing again now caused his eyes to fill with coldness. Killing intent flickered inside of him, and he lifted his hand. Power of core formation emanated out. Xu Qing's expression never changed from being cold. Her eyes glittered as a white-colored qi emanated out from her body, transforming into threads which shot toward Li Daoyi. A boom echoed out immediately. Meng Hao's eyes were closed, and he was completely focused on rotating his cultivation base. His third Dao pillar began to melt, sending violet qi surging through his body, permeating it. Meng Hao's entire body was now violet-colored. Xu Qing and Li Daoyi were locked in a magical battle. Xu Qing obviously had the upper hand. In reality, in terms of cultivation base, she had fused with Matriarch Phoenix, making it impossible for Li Daoyi to even compare to her. She was essentially at the level of a sect patriarch. However, even if Xu Qing actively attempted to meld, she would be unable to do so in a short period of time. Currently, she was only able to wield about 1% of the full power. Even that small amount still placed her above Li Daoyi. No matter what methods Li Daoyi employed as they fought, Xu Qing's expression was the same as ever. Were she able to leave Meng Hao's side, to pursue Li Daoyi and use all the magical techniques she possessed, then she would easily be able to defeat him. However, she didn't want to take such a risk. She was worried that if she fully engaged in the battle, Li Daoyi would use some trick or another to affect Meng Hao's cultivation base. As the two of them fought, Meng Hao's second Dao pillar began to melt, and after it disappeared, the first. In the space of 10 breaths, the flying rain dragon core was visible in his core C. It immediately moved into the violet mist. The demonic core was already small. After merging into the violet mist, the mist globule began to rotate even faster. It was very obviously congealing into a core at this point. It was at this very moment that Ji Hongdong appeared off in the distance, flying in their general direction at high speed. His eyes were actually closed, as if he were following the trail of an aura. His face was pale. Obviously he had been injured while battling with the young Fang woman. Having shaken her off, here he was now, an intense light glittering underneath his eyelids. I'm not sure how that lowbrow cultivator managed to pierce the immortal sense and acquire the immortal qi that the patriarch talked about. Well, it doesn't matter. With his cultivation base, he won't be able to absorb it very quickly. As long as I'm able to kill him, then I can take the immortal qi and absorb it myself. Once I do, then I'll definitely be able to be promoted out of the quasi-array. Then I can be a true member of the clan array. As he reached this point in his train of thought, he opened his eyes. They gleamed with intense anticipation. He suddenly turned his head and looked toward Meng Hao. "Found you," he said, flying directly toward him. As for Meng Hao, cracking sounds could be heard within his body. The violet mist globule within his core C was shrinking. As it did, it began to grow more solid. It emanated a brilliant violet light as a thick exterior began to form. Once it was completely solid, the violet core formed, then Meng Hao's cultivation base would rocket up. He would leave foundation establishment and enter core formation, and the ranks of the truly powerful experts. 10%, 20%, 30%. The rotation of the violet mist globule inside of him began to slow, and looked more and more solid. It was shrinking also. All that remained was about the size of a fist. It didn't take long before the violet core truly began to emerge. As of now, Meng Hao could feel a throbbing power pulsing through him, far, far greater than anything he had felt before. This was not a normal violet core, but one formed from the 10 Tao pillars of a perfect foundation. The moment it appeared, it became the most powerful violet core ever seen in the tens of thousands of years that made up the history of the Violet Fate sect. This level of power was unheard of. Furthermore, after merging with the demonic core of the Flying Rain Dragon, the violet core was even more brutally powerful. No one in the Violet Fate sect had even come close to touching such a level of power. Even Reverend Violet East, when he was in the core formation stage, had never reached this astonishing level. In addition to all that, Meng Hao's violet core was formed with the assistance of the breath of immortal qi. This core was something that had never been seen in the Violet Fate sect, the southern domain, the western desert, the northern reaches or the eastern lands. 40%, 50%, 60%. Meng Hao could sense the aura of the violet mist within him growing stronger. His heart began to beat faster, his body grew stronger, the range of the spiritual sense grew greater. He could sense all these constant changes. It was at this moment that Meng Hao suddenly caught sight of Ji Hongdong with his spiritual sense. He approached rapidly. In one breath, he was far off in the distance. A moment later he was upon Meng Hao and the others. At the same time that Ji Hongdong appeared, a boom filled the air. Li Daoyi coughed up some blood as he staggered back several paces to stand next to Ji Hongdong. He glared at Xu Qing, his eyes full of murder. Xu Qing's face was a bit pale, but her expression was cold as she stared at Ji Hongdong. "Excellent job, Li Daoyi," said Ji Hongdong coolly. "I will notify my clan regarding this matter, and tell them that your Li clan performed a meritorious deed. Please don't be so polite, young Master Ji. It is my honor to be able to assist the Ji clan. Young Master Ji, please allow me to take this woman away. She has attacked me twice so far, and today I plan to help her understand what it means to live a life worse than death." A vile, licentious look shone in his eyes. He liked cold women like this. "Do as you wish," replied Ji Hongdong coolly. He glanced at Xu Qing, then looked at Meng Hao, who was still sitting there cross-legged, meditating. Looking at his cultivation base, and seeing that he was forming his core, caused a look of derision to appear in his eyes. "If Fang Yu hadn't appeared, I might have been fooled by you. Since you have the immortal qi in your body, then I have no choice but to slay you and refine it out of your corpse." With that, he took a step forward. A massive power emerged from his body. An image appeared behind him, that of mountains and rivers and a great land. It was a strange scene. It made it seem as if he were an emperor, and that the land he stepped on was part of his empire. As he proceeded forward, the violet mist within Meng Hao reached 80% completion, and headed toward 90%. The powerful aura within him didn't emanate out from him at all. Instead, it surged throughout his body, filling him. Xu Qing set her gaze, and then stepped in front of Meng Hao to block Ji Hongdong's way. "You overestimate yourself," said Ji Hongdong with a cold snort. He took another step, and the massive image behind him of the mountains and rivers suddenly expanded, exerting pressure down into Xu Qing. This was the manifestation of Ji Hongdong's core qi. The mountains and rivers made him seem like an emperor exuding a royal aura. Xu Qing's face went pale under the pressure. Her eyes suddenly shined with a blackness that completely covered over the whites of her eyes. Anyone who looked at her eyes now would see only dark emptiness. Suddenly, the aura emanating from her body was no longer white, but black. Strands of blackness emerged, transforming into a host of vicious, demonic faces. The faces congealed together above her face to form into a black phoenix. It immediately charged directly toward the royal will embodied by the mountains and rivers. Ji Hongdong's eyes narrowed, shocked by what had just happened. A boom rattled out, and blood sprayed from Xu Qing's mouth. She staggered backward, then grabbed Meng Hao. It was the same way she had grabbed him all those years ago when she took him from Mount Daking. 1. This, of course, happened in Chapter 1. Holding him at her side, she shot off into the distance. Her face was pale, and blood seeped from the corners of her mouth. Just now, she had used the power of Matriarch Phoenix, a power which did not fully belong to her. As a result, she had significantly injured herself. She was willing to take the risk, but in truth, she could not employ too much of the power, only a bit of it. At the same time as she sped away with Meng Hao, Ji Hongdong, his face pale white, looked down and pulled a damaged jade pendant out from near his chest. His face was unsightly, his eyes filled with killing intent as well as astonishment. Just now, she erupted with power similar to that of a nascent soul cultivation base. She even crushed my life-saving jade. This girl's aura is interesting. It must be the power of a discarnate soul. Now I just have to see which discarnate soul of the southern domain dares to take shape before me. Ji Hongdong of the Ji clan. Who is it exactly that dares to attack me? A cruel smile twisted his face as he shot forward in pursuit. Li Daoyi followed him, sighing inwardly. Now he knew that Xu Qing hadn't been using her full power during their fight. If she had, he would without a doubt be dead already. Obviously, she didn't use her full power when she attacked just now. That would cost her too much. Meng Hao couldn't physically see what was happening, but because of his spiritual sense, he was aware of all the changes in the situation. In fact, things were even clearer than if he had seen it with the naked eye. He saw Xu Qing's blood, saw her risking her life. He felt a stab of pain in his heart, and waves of anger surged up in his heart. By the time she coughed up blood for the third time, the violet mist inside of Meng Hao was 90% complete and closing in on 100%. Elder sister, he said, opening his eyes. Put me down, okay? Xu Qing didn't say anything. She ignored him, speeding forward as quickly as possible. He looked at her, warmth filling his eyes. Suddenly, a whistling sound could be heard as Ji Hongdong appeared, flying through the air. By now, the walls in the area were more than half crumbled to pieces. It wouldn't be long before they completely disintegrated. When Ji Hongdong appeared, a look of determination appeared in Xu Qing's eyes. She waved her left hand, and her body trembled as massive amounts of black aura shot out, forming into the shape of a black phoenix, filled with countless discarnate souls. Shrill screams filled the air as it shot toward Ji Hongdong. Are you blind? Said Ji Hongdong with a cold snort. Do you really dare to offend the bloodline of the Ji clan? He continued forward without hesitation. This chapter was sponsored by Bornemissa Peter, Justus Sarman Zokai, Dennis Anderson, Jiashan Chen, Alex Faklam, and Extreme GTP. Chapter 304, Core Formation. By the time the words left Ji Hongdong's mouth, the phoenix, formed from the black aura as well as countless discarnate souls, was around 20 to 25 meters away from him. Suddenly, it began to tremble. The previously vicious faces of the discarnate souls were suddenly filled with dread and shock, as if they had suddenly encountered something they found terrifying. The black phoenix emitted a shrill scream, as if it didn't want to proceed any further forward. It lowered its head, almost like it was bowing to Ji Hongdong. The expression on Xu Qing's face immediately changed. She began to tremble, and her eyes filled with disbelief. How could she possibly have predicted that the discarnate souls of the Black Civ sect, who were as powerful as the sun at high noon, would prostrate before a core formation cultivator? Your bloodline. Her heart thumped as she suddenly considered the words Ji Hongdong had just spoken. Ji Hongdong gave a cold harumph, and once again spoke, trifling discarnate souls. In front of the bloodline of the Ji clan, they don't even count as wild dogs. They're nothing but insects. When they died under the heavens of the Ji clan. His words were cool, his countenance proud. He never stopped moving forward. As he did, the discarnate souls shrieked. They retreated backward, prostrating, their faces filled with looks of entreaty. The Black Phoenix trembled violently as Ji Hongdong approached, and suddenly, a face appeared on its surface. It was the face of a woman. This was not Xu Qing's face, but rather the sealed matriarch Phoenix. Her eyes were closed, and her expression was one of terror, and even more so, imploring. She wanted to offer an explanation, but it seemed she had lost her power to speak or even open her eyes. Slowly, a bright red sealing mark appeared on her face. When Ji Hongdong saw the face, he blinked 7 times. A bizarre light shone out as he studied her. A strange expression appeared on his face, and then he laughed. "Interesting," he said, with a meaningful smile. "I've heard of discarnate souls possessing people, but I've never heard of a host taking control of the discarnate soul." He looked at Li Daoyi. "What is her name and sect?" "Black Civ Sect, Xu Qing," replied Li Daoyi immediately. "Xu Qing. Interesting," he said, a wicked smile on his face. "I'm not sure how you did it. You fooled the Black Civ Sect, as well as the other discarnate souls. You fooled everyone into thinking that you are the discarnate soul. Tell me, if word of this gets out, what would happen to you?" He proceeded forward, laughing loudly. He waved his right hand, and all the discarnate souls retreated, even the Black Phoenix. Trembling, they didn't dare to proceed any further forward. They weren't necessarily afraid of the young man in particular, but rather the fearsome bloodline of the Ji clan inside of him. Xu Qing's face changed even more, becoming even paler. She well knew that if word spread, she wouldn't be able to flee far enough. She would be dead without doubt. It wouldn't just be the Black Civ Sect that was chasing her, but all the fearsome discarnate souls. Whether it be the cultivators who lived on the surface of the Black Civ Sect, or the discarnate souls beneath, not a single one would let her go free. There would be nowhere to flee to in the entire southern domain. All of her resources in the sect would be purged. No shelter would be found anywhere in the southern domain. Besides, even if she fled, she couldn't physically stay away for very long. The process of fusing with Matriarch Phoenix could only happen within the Black Civ Sect. It was only there that she could continue the process. Until Matriarch Phoenix was completely swallowed up, if she stayed away from the sect for too long at one time, then her cultivation base would begin to deteriorate. This matter had suddenly turned into a great disaster for her. Seeing Xu Qing's change of expression caused Ji Hongdong to laugh. His eyes filled with derision. He loved seeing people like this. It gave him a feeling of power, as if he were a great lord. "And then there's this seal," he said. "It's very interesting. It can help you control the discarnate soul. I think the sect patriarchs will be very interested in this." He laughed as he approached, his face filled with derision, as if everything was under his control. Xu Qing's face was pale. Having temporarily lost control of the discarnate souls, and without the power of Matriarch Phoenix, she was just an ordinary cultivator. Even the power of core formation could only be wielded by her with difficulty. Furthermore, she couldn't retreat. She suddenly felt a binding around her, holding her in place as if she were being sealed. She couldn't move even an inch. "Don't worry, I'm not going to kill you," said Ji Hongdong. He neared, lifting his hand toward Meng Hao to grab him. Even as his hand closed in, Meng Hao's eyes snapped open. A frightening power surged out from his cultivation base. It ripped through the area like an invisible cyclone, causing Ji Hongdong's face to twist. He retreated backward immediately, nearly 30 meters. His face was dark, and his pupils had constricted. Next to him, Li Daoyi's expression was one of astonishment, disbelief, and alarm. Body trembling, he stared at Meng Hao's figure within the cyclone, and a look of venom and shock filled his eyes. He suddenly said, You're not Fang Mu. You're Meng Hao." His voice was shrill, and his breath came in pants. How could he ever have imagined that the person he had searched in vain for throughout all these years, was actually right in front of him? As the words left his mouth, thunderous roars filled the air, and the violent winds surged outward. Meng Hao's figure seemed to surge upward. He was the nucleus of the cyclone. The terrifying winds were coming out from his body. Meng Hao's face suddenly changed. No longer was it Fang Mu's, but rather, his own face, his original face. An intensely terrifying aura suddenly shot up from within him. Li Daoyi's face went pale. His mind was reeling. He just couldn't believe what was happening. However, how could he not understand that Fang Mu was Meng Hao, and Meng Hao was Fang Mu? Violet Fate Sect Legacy Apprentice, Grandmaster Pill Cauldron, Fang Mu, Meng Hao. He retreated backward, thinking about the pain he had experienced when he lost his arm. It had been restored, but the enmity created in the Blood Immortal Legacy Tournament was something he considered to be the greatest humiliation in his entire life. Surrounding by a violet glow, a profound look filled Meng Hao's eyes. Other than him, no one could know the reason for why he had just switched to his original appearance. His eyes glowed with coldness. Within him was a violet core, about the size of a child's fist. It rested in the position once occupied by his core C, floating there, rotating. Every time it spun in a full circle, vast quantities of violet-colored strands surged out like lightning to every corner of his body. The violet-colored strands flickered as they surged through his chi passageways, filled with a boundless cultivation base power that far exceeded foundation establishment. This was core formation chi, from a core formation cultivation base. In fact, this core formation chi was not the type of chi that would be emitted by a cultivation base that had just entered the core formation stage. This was the explosive power of the pinnacle of the early core formation stage. The violet wind screamed as it spun throughout the area. Even Meng Hao's long hair was now violet as it whipped around his head. Next to him, Xu Qing sighed. It seemed she had thought of something. Her face changed, and she was about to speak when Meng Hao suddenly interrupted. "Don't worry, I'll take care of it," he said, his voice light. He turned, his eyes glowing with a violet light as he looked at Ji Hongdong. Ji Hongdong's expression was the same as usual. "Fang Mu? Meng Hao? It seems you have quite a few identities. Considering how quickly you entered core formation, it also seems that the breath of immortal chi really is incredibly valuable. That makes me happy." He smiled, lifting up his arm and then flicking his sleeve. Suddenly, a field of stars appeared behind him. The star field was large, filling the air. It rushed toward Meng Hao, exerting a suppressive force. It was clear that this field of stars was that which shined above the southern domain, including the western desert and the eastern lands. It was vast and mighty. As it approached, it enveloped everything, making it impossible for anyone to avoid it. Meng Hao lifted his head, his expression a bit blank. He was silent, almost as if he didn't notice the star field approaching him. As it descended, the blankness on his face disappeared, replaced instead with determination. As of now, a decision had been made. He lifted his hand, forming a fist. A red glow suddenly shot out. This was the Blood Death World. It slammed into the star field. An explosion filled the air, and Meng Hao tumbled backward like a kite with its string cut. "Fool! You," said Ji Hongdong with a cold laugh, his voice filled with contempt. However, before he could finish speaking, Meng Hao's tumbling body suddenly changed direction. It was with indescribable speed, before anyone could react, that he suddenly appeared directly in front of Li Daoyi. Li Daoyi had been on guard the entire time, but he was still incapable of evading. Actually, Meng Hao's initial goal this entire time had been Li Daoyi. After all, he would be the easiest to exterminate, no matter how prepared he was. Li Daoyi's pupils constricted. He was about to shoot backward when Meng Hao lifted his right hand and pushed it down onto Li Daoyi's forehead. A boom filled the air, and an exterminating power poured into Li Daoyi's body, filling him, crushing him, mangling him. He was dead instantly. "Did you pay attention to the face of the person who killed you?" he asked softly, looking at Li Daoyi's bloody corpse. He turned to look at Ji Hongdong. Meng Hao sighed, then slapped his bag of holding to retrieve his East Pill Division identification medallion. He looked down at it for a long moment, his eyes filled with a complicated, disconsolate look. Finally, determination filled his eyes and he crushed it. The instant he crushed the medallion, his violet furnace lord's robe began to disintegrate. A green robe now covered his body. As of this moment, he was no longer Fang Mu, legacy apprentice of the East Pill Division. Now, he was Meng Hao from Mount Daking in the state of Jiao. Chapter 305. Do you dare to kill me? The instant Meng Hao crushed the Violet Furnace Lord medallion, the moment his Violet Furnace Lord robe began to fade away, something happened in the state of Eastern Emergence, Violet Fate Sect, East Pill Division, on Grandmaster Pill Demon's Low Mountain. In one particular building were 3 racks of jade slips. On the 3rd rack were 9 jade slips. Upon each slip was written a name, and if you looked closely, you would see that they belonged to the 9 great Furnace Lords, and Zai Hai, Yi Feimu, and the others. These were all of Pill Demon's novitiates. There was only 1 jade slip on the 2nd rack. This one belonged to Chu Yuyan, his personal apprentice. The 1st rack also contained 1 jade slip, upon which was written 2 characters. Fang Mu. His position was the highest. Legacy Apprentice. This jade slip represented the importance of Meng Hao's place in the East Pill Division of the Violet Fate Sect. Suddenly, Fang Mu's jade slip began to tremble. Cracking sounds rang out, and fissures sprang out from the middle of the slip. In an instant, it exploded, transforming into flying ash. The moment the jade slip collapsed, white-robed Pill Demon was sitting cross-legged on the mountain's peak, looking off into the distance. A tremor ran through his body. He turned his head, looking down into the room with the jade slips. He held his gaze for a long time. His ancient face suddenly seemed to grow older. More wrinkles appeared. Meanwhile, in the center of the southern domain, in the middle of the territory of the Li clan, was a location that appeared to be just like the dwelling place of immortals. Suddenly, a roar filled the air. Along with the roar appeared a figure bristling with rage. As the figure charged out, 7 or 8 others appeared behind him. The man held a shattered jade slip in his hand. It emitted a bright glow, in the middle of which was a face. It was none other than that of Meng Hao. This was the reflection stored in Li Daoi's pupils the moment before he died. Meng Hao's face. "Daoi!" howled the old man, lifting his head to the sky and letting out a howl. A Dao child of the clan had been slain. Such a thing was said to have occurred to the Wang clan years ago, but it turned out to only be a rumor. Even still, it had shocked the southern domain. Now, it really had happened to the Li clan. This time, it was no falsehood. This Dao child really had met his death. "I don't care who you are," the old man raged. "You killed a Dao child of my Li clan. No matter which sect you belong to, you shall die." He and the 8 figures shot off into the distance. Behind them, even more cultivators of the Li clan followed, dozens. They transformed into prismatic beams of light that shot toward the rebirth cave at such speed it seemed possible they would tear a hole into the sky. At the same time, in the Wang clan of the southern domain, deep within that endless chain of mountains, was the lava cave of the 10th patriarch of the Wang clan. Suddenly, the lid of his coffin shattered into pieces, and the 10th Wang clan patriarch slowly rose to his feet. He walked into the lava, and as he did, it slowly cooled and grew dark, as did the cave. As one of the legendary Wang clan patriarchs once said, "All living things sow karma. Therefore, karma must be reaped. With life comes death. Today, I will help you. Yes, it's sowing karma, but in the future, I will consume you, and that is the reaping of karma that you must pay. Today, you will not die. However, that merely indicates that in the future, you will belong completely to me." The 10th Wang clan patriarch laughed hoarsely as a red glow surrounded his body. "I haven't been out in so long," he muttered lightly, then disappeared. Near the rebirth cave, within the mental realm of the immortal's corpse, in the depths of the maze, Meng Hao stood next to Li Daoi's corpse, breathing heavily. From the moment he had revealed his true features, Meng Hao had been in constant deep thought. Li Daoi had to die. The instant Meng Hao had heard Ji Hongdong's words, Li Daoi's fate had been sealed. He must be killed. Only dead men can truly keep secrets. Shu Qing had her secret, as did Meng Hao. Were word to get out, Shu Qing would face unspeakable danger to her life. In fact, her death would be certain. Therefore, Li Daoi had to die. However, there was a polar difference between dying beneath Fang Mu's hand and dying beneath Meng Hao's. Meng Hao was no longer the ignorant youth he had been when he first entered the cultivation world. In his years practicing cultivation in the Violet Fate Sect, his understanding of things had grown exponentially. How could he not understand that the death of a Dao child of any sect would instantly be made known to that sect? Furthermore, they had techniques to be able to reveal the appearance and aura of whoever did the slaying. Even determining the exact location where it had happened would not be difficult. It might be possible for the meat jelly to help him cover up the truth from the Li clan. However, Meng Hao wasn't confident enough to take that risk. Meng Hao was well aware of the situations and the ramifications. Therefore, he could not kill Li Daoyi while wearing the face of Fang Mu. As such, he had no choice but to discard that identity. As for Ji Hongdong, quasi-array member of the #1 clan in all the lands of South Heaven, well, if he died, Meng Hao could only imagine what the reaction of the Ji clan would be. Any powerful and fearsome clan would take serious action to handle the slaying of one of their clan members. That was a necessary reaction to maintain the dignity and power of the clan. Killing Ji Hongdong would be like killing the prince of an empire. An empire might have many princes, but such a thing would provoke severe catastrophe and endless problems. The Violet Fate sect would really have no way to fight back against the Ji clan. Based on Anzai description and Meng Hao's personal understanding, although the Violet Fate sect was a great clan in the southern domain, compared to the Ji clan, it was like a tiny mayfly. If a Violet Fate sect disciple killed a member of the Ji clan, that death wouldn't just involve whichever trifling disciple did the killing. Most likely, the entire sect would collapse because of it. As Meng Hao's fingers crushed down onto his Violet Furnace Lord medallion, what he was thinking about was his master. He also thought about the other Violet Furnace Lords. He thought about the green mountains and clear blue waters of the East Pill Division. He thought about all his experiences through the years there. Despite all that, Ji Hongdong had to die. If he didn't, Xu Qing would be in incredible danger. Furthermore, if the Ji clan knew of the existence of a demon sealer, well, the mere thought of it caused Meng Hao's scalp to prickle with danger. Therefore, Ji Hongdong was doomed to perish. Only his death could ensure Xu Qing's safety, and allow her to stay in the Black Civ sect and completely fuse with Matriarch Phoenix, without anyone suspecting her. And so, Meng Hao crushed the Violet Furnace Lord medallion. It represented him casting off all ties with the Violet Fate sect. He had nothing to do with them now. He was Meng Hao. Fang Mu was merely an alias. Once that information was revealed, the Violet Fate sect would be able to offer a clear explanation. Most importantly, destroying the medallion indicated that he was forsaking the sect. It might even offer implication that Fang Mu was dead. The only frustrating factor was that when he left this place, the Li clan would be after his head. There would be nowhere in the vast southern domain where he could hide. He would be forced to leave, to truly disappear from the southern domain. Furthermore, before disappearing, he must prepare for what would surely be a vast series of storm-like upheavals. All of this had been rushing through his mind the moment Xu Qing's identity was revealed to Ji Hongdong. Despite Meng Hao's breakthrough in cultivation base, he was still hesitant at first. In the end, though, he was filled with resolve. Master, he thought, slowly looking off in the direction of the Violet Fate sect. I've been unfilial. Please view Fang Mu as dead. His eyes flashed as he looked back at Ji Hongdong. For the first time, they flickered with killing intent. It takes some time to analyze all of the thoughts that went through Meng Hao's head, but in actuality, they flashed through his head in an instant. As they did, they transformed into intense killing intent. This killing intent caused Ji Hongdong's mind to tremble. This was the first time he had ever seen someone staring at him in such a way. In the past, it didn't matter where he went or which enemy he fought, people would attack him, but never with the desire to exterminate him. That was because his surname was Ji. The bloodline of the Ji clan pumped through his veins. In the southern domain, in the lands of South Heaven, few people would ever dare to provoke the Ji clan. You want to kill me? Do you dare? His eyes glittered coldly as he lifted his right hand and performed an incantation gesture. Immediately Core Chi blossomed above his head. Again, the star field appeared. This time, there were clearly far more blinking stars than there had been before. They covered everything above them, filling the area, then rushing down toward Meng Hao. As the bright starlight descended upon him, Meng Hao's killing intent continued to flicker just as before. The stars approached, and he lifted his right hand, striking forward. As he did, his blood-covered fingers caused everything to shake. Suddenly, a massive blood-colored palm appeared beneath him. The bloody palm grew larger, expanding. Next the blood death world came to being, within which Meng Hao's blood clones could be seen. They faced the incoming starlight and star field, and immediately moved to defend against it. The blood palm shot upward like the hand of a giant, slamming into the star field. A boom filled the air. Meng Hao's entire body trembled, and blood oozed from his mouth. The star field began to collapse, and the starlight dissipated. However, Meng Hao's blood death world also began to disintegrate. At the moment, Meng Hao hadn't yet cultivated core qi. Right now, he was now facing up against a cultivator who had. However, Meng Hao was vastly different than the last time he had done so, against the azure-masked Blacklands cultivator. He would not flee. No, he was much more evenly matched now. Ji Hongdong's expression changed. Blood sprayed from his mouth and he staggered backward. A fierce expression washed over his face, and he waved his right hand out. Other than that damned crazy lunatic from the Fang clan, you're the first person to ever injure me. Damn you! Dungeon of Heaven, incarnate prison. As he cried out, his hand flashed an incantation gesture and then waved toward the air above Meng Hao. Immediately, a blue glow appeared, spreading out to cover everything. It transformed into a blue sky complete with white clouds, its own heaven. Even stranger, this sky covered Meng Hao only. Everywhere else looked just as it had before. Let ring the bell of the east. 9 exterminations. Use the will of the heavens to destroy the body. Use the gaze of the firmament to punish the spirit. Use the bloodline of the Ji clan to punish this person with heavenly tribulation. Veins of blood filled Ji Hongdong's eyes. He lowered his finger, and the blue swath of heaven above Meng Hao filled with roiling black clouds. Thunder crackled, and even more shockingly, it seemed lightning would soon fall. You want to kill me? You're not qualified. Ji Hongdong slapped his bag of holding, and a silver bell appeared in his hand. Immediately, a clear ring sounded out. Use the bloodline of the Ji clan and the guidance of the Bell of the East to call forth the judgment of the will of the heavens against this Meng Hao. D. His face distorted with rage as he let out a roar. This chapter was sponsored by Eric Muchos, Henri Vatanen, Wei Chun and Joshua, Matthew Suzy, and Jeffrey Smith. I really wanted to translate this as Dead Men Tell No Tales, but it would have been a bit too much of a stretch from the original haha.